On that day, when you looked at me, you enslaved me, in grace entered me, and out of love melted my mind. I repeat. O Shiva, on that day when you looked at me, you enslaved me, in grace entered me, and out of love melted my mind. Not I looked at you. On the day when you looked at me. When we look only at objects, and amongst objects, preferentially at the ones we like or dislike. Objects that we have something to do with. We want to depend on our looking. But our looking is quite unreliable. There is no way but to let yourself fall into the unknown. You'll have to learn to depend upon the unknown. Unknown to the mind. Not really unknown. But to the mind, it is unknown. Sages have said that it is our essence. The mind says it is a stranger. The mind is usually not a sage. Today morning, there were a few questions. On the method of looking, how to look. This beautiful hymn resolves all your questions. No method of looking is needed because you don't have to look at all. You have to let Shiva look at you. And you cannot force him. So you can only pray. You cannot even pray. Because what you call as praying is just a certain affliction of the mind. So you can only say a few things in your broken language. Unreasonable. in a very unorganized, slovenly way. Like this hymn. There is nothing extremely sophisticated or poetic about it. It is expressed in such simple language. There have been poets, bards, who write such sublime, sophisticated poetry. Poetry that stretches language and the mind, that goes to the limits of imagination. And here we have someone expressing in such simple language, "O Shiva, on that day when you looked at me, you enslaved me. O Shiva, on that day when you looked at me, you enslaved me. In grace entered me, and out of love melted my mind." Only this you can know, that the mind has melted. That now the mind has been possessed. Only this you will know, that too as an absence. The mind was a solid lump, like a tumor, like a cancerous lump. And it has melted. It is no more. You will only know the absence when Shiva touches you and enters you. That touch will not be known as something affirmative, as something objective. You will know that touch only because that touch will reduce something in you. It will take away something. It will take away your ownership of yourself. You will be enslaved. And it will take away the lump that your mind is. The effects will be known. The cause will not be known. In fact, the unknowable cause is called Shiva. Who is Shiva? The unknowable one. When you really experience the effects, but have no idea of why certain things are happening to you, then you call the cause as Shiva. When you really experience a certain peace, an absence of load and tension, without knowing why you are feeling relieved, then you call the cause as Shiva. Do not try to become the cause. You cannot be the cause. Hence, your search will go fruitless. Searching means you are trying to be the cause of your liberation. You cannot be the cause. Shiva will have to be the cause. And Shiva is nobody in particular. Kindly do not try to imagine a particular Shiva. In imagination, all you will do is give a name, shape, form, history, stories to Shiva. Shiva, as we said, means the unknowable. There is no need to try. Just let Shiva touch you. You don't need to try. Yes? After he has touched you, you will know of the touch through the melting of the mind, through the effects, through the absence of all that which was heavy upon you for so long. Are you getting it? So don't exercise your mind so much. Our tendency is that we want to deploy the same mind in the spiritual quest that we deploy in our worldly quests. We say our worldly advancements and achievements come through an application of intellect. In fact, the more we analyze, the more we think, the more we seem to be gaining in this world. So proceeding on the same logic, the same habit, we say even in the spiritual journey, we must exercise the mind more and more. Because so far whatever we got only by exercising the mind. Now that is the first and the final mistake. Once you have made this mistake, and if you persist with this mistake, there is no correction possible. Do not try. Let Shiva do what only Shiva can do. You cannot be the cause of your liberation. Yes, you can be the cause of your miseries, which you certainly are. It is enough if you see that you are the cause of your miseries. Many of us are quite determined to be free of miseries. Let me just advise them that their determination is their detriment. The more determined you are to help yourself, the more you will stay alive and kicking with the purpose of helping yourself. You have to melt. You have to go away. You don't have to stay put, even if to help yourself. The purpose of these talks is not to motivate, not to inspire to achieve some great heights. But to request that we see how our resolutions, our willpower, our determination, our strong desires, including the desire to be free, is what stands in our own way. Yes, the man who advocates slavery is a slave. But a bigger slave is the man who is chasing freedom. Because he has now given slavery the name of freedom. The only freedom is freedom from the self. And when you are chasing freedom, then you are using the self to chase freedom. In fact, now you say the self must be protected, bolstered, so that it can chase better. You say, why not equip the self with a little more knowledge? Why not read more? Why not have a better body? Why not put in a lot of effort, travel here and there? All of these acts will not bring you any closer to the truth, but they will certainly do what they are subconsciously intended to do. They will inflate the ego. Do not ask what will give you redemption. Because what redeems is beyond knowledge. Rather, if you are too interested in asking, simply ask, what keeps me enslaved? And stop. Go no further. Don't ask, then what?
Sir, this mind is a very slippery customer. And the determination that you were talking howsoever we may pursue, and despite pursuing it rigorously, we find that we fail. We fail if not consistently, we fail intermittently. Then the sight of Shiva, would we be ever capable of that?
You'd be able to have that sight when you fail totally. Isn't it a mercy that you fail? Have you ever thought of what would happen if you succeed? Look at your desires and your determinations. And look at how they are paradoxical and in conflict with the world. What if you succeed? Would there be a worse day possible? So it's a great grace that our dreams never materialize. And our resolutions are frustrated. The pity is not that we are defeated. The pity is that in spite of being defeated and shown our place 1,000 times, we still just get up, brush off the dirt, and get set for another go. Is there anybody here who has not been educated by life? Who has not been advised by life? Who is not being continuously told by life that his ways are improper? Our daily frustrations, the buzzing tension, petty jealousies, little fears, great fears, forgetfulnesses, are all of these not proving that life is trying to teach us a lesson? That life is continuously telling us, son, mend your ways. We don't listen. In spite of stumbling, in spite of falling 1,000 times, we still get up and keep moving as if everything is all right. The attentive mind would say, how is it possible that I am not able to be total, complete, proper in anything? How is it possible that whatever I do is tainted with incompletion? How does it do that nothing ever is fully satisfactory? How is it possible that I require somebody else to keep correcting me? And if you are sensitive, you'd stop at the first hint. You will say, I committed a mistake. I have been told by life that this is a mistake. And now how can I proceed with the same system and commit more mistakes? Because in spite of being told that I am making errors, I remain what I am. Which only means that whatever I do next would be just another mistake. And why should I proceed? Why should I be so enthusiastic about doing more? But we don't do that. We are not so sensitive, not so honest.
No. What I was telling you was that despite doing that, there are instances when we fall prey to the wanderings of mind.
What are you except the wanderings of mind? Are you anything except the wandering of mind? And why do you say the mind is wandering? Where does the mind go when it wanders? We are trying to say that we do not want the mind to wander, but the mind is possessed by some other force, agency, darkness outside of us. And hence the mind starts wandering. That is a very common model and a very easy moralistic excuse. Where does the mind go, I'm asking you, when it wanders? Does it go to any place other than the ones that you desire? Going to my question, when the mind wanders, where does it go? It only goes to the places that you are really attached to. It only goes where you want it to go. It is not wandering. It is just to sound nice and pure that you say that, the mind is wandering. I didn't want it to wander. You dispatched it. You are the master of the mind. You are controlling it and willfully sending it to the place where it is going. It's like you send your child to lie to the neighbors. And when the child is caught, then you say, I don't know, he just keeps wandering. He went there and kept lying. To inquire into what I'm saying, just ask, where does the mind go when it wanders? And you'll see, it only goes to your most favorite places. Does it not? Have you seen where the wandering mind goes? Mind never wanders. Mind only goes to places where you have taught it to go. The places where you have told it that some value lies. So as you're sitting here, let's say your mind is wandering. You're thinking about the restaurant you would be going to, or you plan to go to tonight. Sitting in this library, if you're thinking of the restaurant you plan to visit tonight, then is the mind really wandering? But you want to be on the right side of morality. So you won't admit that the thought of the restaurant is so appealing and that you desperately want to be there, that you have started thinking of it in advance. The mind is not wandering. If you did not value the restaurant and the dinner, then would the mind think about the restaurant and the dinner? Would the mind wander? It is your values that the mind is following. Have you ever seen the mind wander to some place that you do not value? The mind only goes to places that you find valuable, maybe secretly valuable. Maybe you don't tell those secrets to anybody. But the mind knows all the secrets because it is in the mind that the secrets are stored. So the mind knows. So the mind secretly goes away. Then you say it is wandering. It is not wandering. First of all, accept to yourself that you have taught the mind to go to the places where it goes. That is what you are. There is no point pretending that we are somebody beyond the mind. We are not. We are totally identified with the mind. Our only identity is mind. Because we do not know of ourselves as anything except our thoughts. I am what I think I am. Hence I am the mind. Somebody asks you, who are you? Can you answer without using the mind? And if you cannot, then you are totally mind identified. If you are asked, who are you? Can you answer without the mind?
It can also happen that you are unable to answer, but deep within, you know who I am.
What is this within?
You are real.
What is this your and real?
That is beyond mind.
Is there a within except the mind? Remove the mind. Does there remain a within or without?
Yes.
If there is no mind, what do you mean by within? Within what?
Yeah, that is what perhaps the reality of all.
Within what? When you say within, I am asking within what?
That is where we have to explore.
Within what? You are saying within. Within what?
That is not known to me, but certainly not the
Sir, you very well know you mean within me. Right? When you say within, you mean within me. And when you say me, all you mean is the body. When you say me, have you ever meant anything except the body? Even to talk to you, I have to look at your body. And you will feel awkward if I look at the walls while talking to you. We are so deeply identified with the body. When I say the soul rests within me, the mind rests within me, all that we mean is that it rests within the body. There is no within except the mind. When you are in deep sleep, I ask you, and when the mind is at abeyance, tell me, does within remain? When you are in deep sleep, does within remain? Does without remain? Within and without come into existence only when the mind gets active.
something remains which is not the body and the mind.
Are you able to say that when you are in deep sleep that something remains? Even this something has come into existence only when you are talking right now, when the mind is active. Have you ever said in your deep sleep that something remains? In Sushupti, in your deepest sleep, have you ever said that something remains? Does anything remain? Something, when you say something, it is language, it is concept. Nothing remains. Absolutely nothing remains. Total void. Within, without, something, nothing, everything, all of these come into the picture only when the mind becomes active. We are nothing but the mind.
So that means we are nothing.
As we know ourselves, that is our self-definition. As we know ourselves, we are just the mind. And we have to come to it starkly, that as we know ourselves, we are nothing but the mind. And then we cannot claim that the mind is wandering. Then we'll have to say, I am willfully wandering. And then you realize that you are not helping yourself. If you are willfully wandering and yet suffering while wandering, then you are the cause of your own suffering. That is when surrender arises. When you realize that you are willfully the cause of your own wandering and suffering, and you can do nothing about it because you are what you are, suffering personified, wandering personified, then you say, then how can I help myself? That is when you surrender. That is when the ego surrenders. That is when this hymn becomes meaningful to us. That is when you say that, oh Shiva, unless you touch me, I am of no avail. Morality divides us against ourselves. It makes us feel as if we are two. As if there is one good part of us that wants to control, and there is one bad part of us that wants to do all the bad things like wandering. Yes, of course, the mind is fragmented. But the basic tendency underneath all the fragmentation is one. The aham vritti is one. And we are very, very identified with it. There is no point dealing with the fragments because one fragment can make you feel good. That's what we do, right? When we are feeling very bad, then we hop from one fragment to the other. One room of our house makes us nostalgic. It reminds us of some tragedy. So what do? We quickly move to the next room. I wandered and I felt bad about myself. I felt bad about myself because I have been taught to feel bad about myself. Morality has told me that if you do such things, morality is society. Well, if you do such things, then you are a bad man. So I do a few bad things and I feel bad. So then I say, no, this is not what I wanted to do. I am really a good man. So let me compensate the wrongdoing with some good actions. So then I become a pilgrim or make some donations or visit a temple or read some scriptures or attend a satsang. And nothing. Both of these are the same. That which we call as wandering or wrongdoing and that which we call as the corrective action are just the same. It's just that one fragment has been labeled as bad and the other has been labeled as good. The whole point in today's talk, morning's talk, was whatever you call as your own voice, your own, is just the mind. Silence is not comprehensible to the mind. It calms the mind down, but mind cannot make sense of it. So those who want to be in control will hate silence because you cannot interpret silence. And if you interpret it, then you are unnecessarily coloring it with your own imaginations. Words you can interpret. Of words you are the master. But silence enslaves you. You have to surrender to it. Even the best part of you is not good enough. You know what do we do? When we are confronted with what seems like ugly within us, we rush to some part of ourselves which appears beautiful. Therein lies the trap. The beautiful is not a part of the mind. When you confront something ugly, do not rush to another corner of your life. You see, you go to a restaurant, you order a particular dish. The dish is made of stale oil and other stale ingredients. The dish is bad. Would you order another dish from the same restaurant? Returning that dish, would you order another dish? If you are intelligent, you will know that they both are coming from the same kitchen. The basic ingredients are the same. How can I order another dish? But that's what we do. When one part of the mind goes bad, we rush to another part of the mind which appears to be better, or we hope that it would be better. It's the same kitchen. Whatever comes out of it will stink. Don't depend on it. Don't order another dish. Walk away. We don't want to walk away because it is, my wife's kitchen, my grandpa's kitchen, my religion's kitchen, my own kitchen. I don't want to get up and walk away. Instead, I say, the cook must have been wandering. That is why the dish got bad. The cook was not wandering. The cook was only doing what the tendency of the kitchen is. It is the very tendency of that kitchen to do what it did. Do not order another dish. Do not depend on yourself. Do not say that I am somebody else. The kitchen is what it is. Everything coming out of it is bad. No divided cooking is happening. There is a great langar outside where you don't even have to pay. Walk out. This restaurant is fleecing you. It charges you so much and still keeps you hungry. Not only hungry, it gives you dysentery. Such is our condition. We are hungry but suffering with dysentery.
Sir, I would like to say something.
Please.
I'm a doctor by profession, and I have patients who come to my clinic. I have a very unusual practice where I like to listen to my patients more. And many a times, I know that their problem is because they may have hypertension, they may have diabetes. And as experience tells us, it's more stress related. So I normally, write medicines as a doc lecture, but then I counsel them. And I tell them, why don't you go for a walk in the morning, or why don't you go for a walk in the evening? And I often get so surprised with their answer. They say, I can go in the evening. I said, why? Because there's so much on the television and I want to watch my TV programs. I'm like, okay. So the reason why I tell you this is because there's so much of information available on the television. All of these things have boggle people's mind. So when I was listening to you, I was just thinking that maybe the education that people are getting these days, children, is not what they should actually be getting. Maybe they would be better off if they would be reading Bhagavad Gita, maybe all that information that is required to live a simple life is present in Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Why do we need to read science? Why do we need to do this? Maybe we need to do this is because we want to live in this world and be, competitive. But as a normal person, as a simple person, I think just doing Bhagavad Gita, doing these things would be much better. Person would be much better off. However, the number is so little and the influences are so much there that these people cannot make those choices. Many a times I have people who drink tea and they drink very hot tea. And then I wonder and I look at them and I say, how can you drink such a hot tea? He said, because we like it. And then I try to make them understand that if you cannot put your finger in that tea because you're scared you're going to burn it, so just imagine how delicate or how sensitive your tongue is and your throat and your stomach is. How do you think it's going to take it in? And over a period of time, they've been drinking hot tea. So their taste buds are all gone. So whenever they're drinking hot tea or anything which is spicy, they will not appreciate that taste. So they'll always have to step up a little more. More hotter, more spicier food. So what happens is the real taste has gone. So whatever they're eating is actually the restaurant. So when you go to a restaurant or you go to any of these places, they know exactly what you want. So the spices have been put in such a way that you appreciate that which cannot be replicated at your house. In America, what they had done was, when you go to McDonald's, you pay for the first refill of your Pepsi or whatever. After that, your Pepsi is free. Did you know that in that Pepsi, in your Coke, they have these substances which are never labeled? These are addictive to you. So therefore, once you start drinking that, every day you will have that thirst to drink that. And if you have not had on a particular day, you say something is missing. So this is how all our lives are now. So watching television, eating food at a restaurant, or going to McDonald's or any of these things, they have these things. And the marketing people have gone into your brain. They know exactly what you like and they know where to hit you so that you will go and buy these things. So this is the world that we are living in, and it's difficult, but I feel I'm lucky because I have a master and I know what is. So I'm able to appreciate what is positive, what is negative, and trying to steer my way through that. And I wish that people are able to recognize this also and are able to have a better living and better thoughts.
Today evening, we are going to have a play in one of the shopping malls. I do not know whether it was this particular mall or some other one, but yesterday I was told that the mall management said that the topic of the play must be related to happiness and pleasure. That was their condition if we want to organize the play in their mall. Now, that was all very good because our topic is indeed happiness. But the only little problem is that the play shows the falseness of happiness and the consequent suffering. They know their game well. They know what they are doing. They know that people must be made to feel good and the mind can be conditioned, and through conditioning it can be enslaved, and through that enslavement petty self-interests can be furthered. The only question there is, yes, your self-interest lies in selling something to me. All right, you sell something to me. You will get some money that I pay to you because you sold something to me. You deceived me to buy that, but all that you got from me was some money. Out of all the deception that you trapped me in, all that you could get from me is some money. Now what will you do with that money? You yourself will go and buy something. Please understand this. So you might be selling me whatever, those fizzy drinks, those burgers. But ultimately, what do you get from me? Money. And you give that money to your wife. And the wife goes out and brings some pizza for you. You sold me burgers. And what did you get?
Pizza.
Some pizza. Or maybe some more burgers. And I had money only to buy 2 burgers. But because you robbed 200 people, so you have enough money to buy 2,000 burgers. So if you made me eat 2 harmful burgers, your punishment is that you will be eating 2,000 harmful burgers out of the money that you have robbed from everybody. Is that not what is happening? They know their game, but they do not know that there is a game behind the game.
So I would like to add something to this.
Sure.
God has been very kind to me, so I meet a lot of people, good people. And these people were very elite. You'll be surprised that they may be selling burgers and they may be selling pizzas, but at home they're not having any of this. You'll be surprised that these are the same people who are flying in their own chartered plane and their food is coming from the kitchen.
Yes, but their chartered plane is not coming from the kitchen, right?
So,
Is that not a bigger trap to sell me burgers and then buy a chartered plane using that burger? That chartered plane is the cause of so much of climate change.
but the reason why I tell you this is because they are selling you something that is unhealthy, but themselves they're having a healthy life,
Yes.
and they never show this to you. You would never know these people that what kind of food they're eating. You'll always see them living a very glamorous life because this is a forefront for you, for us, for the blind person. But in real life, it's entirely different. All these celebrities who come onto the television and are selling products, how many of them are actually using it? They never. So we need to understand this. We must read between the lines. We're having a 22nd is a calm-free day. I was just thinking we should have one day where mobile is switched off. Because that day is going to be much better for Vodafone, for Airtel. Because then they'll understand. Because it's radiation for all of us, right?
My proposal is that just as in cars you have odd and even numbers, similarly in mobiles, on half of the day is odd numbers and half the day is even numbers, which will ensure that on all 30 days nobody is talking to anybody. Because to talk to somebody, if you have an odd number, you will need to talk only to
Odd people.
odd people. Nobody. Or you will need to have 2 numbers.
Sir, or else you can call the odd person and tell him, can you give it to the even
Can you give it to the
person?
next? It's enough if we take care of ourselves, like a sore thumb, we must stick out. Even if it displeases a lot of people, even if we are labeled the odd ones out. But if there is something that we have seen to be false, let that realization reflect in our actions. We all are intelligent people. We all realize a few things. I can only pray that we have the strength to act on our realization. I often feel it's not, the tragedy is not that we are ignorant. The tragedy is that we do not have the guts to act on that, even if it is a limited understanding. Yet on that, if you know a little, if you can see the next one step, you may not be able to know the entire way ahead. But if we can see the next one step that is proper for us, let us please take that one step. And we all know that much. We all are wise, at least to that extent that we know what our real feelings are, where we are getting trapped. So we can only request that what we know to be surely false, at least shun that. Where we are doubtful or where we are ignorant, we can anyway not talk about it because we don't know. But when we know, then at least let us act.
So you were talking, you have mentioned in your talk today many times restaurant. So I was wondering why. Have you been to the restaurant or you're planning to go to the restaurant?
Yeah, mostly daily. So, either also because so much is observable when you sit in a restaurant, more so when you're in a food court. So when I'm sitting there or waiting, it's a very nice time to observe the world around, people around, and myself. Because that is the place where you come to enjoy. That is the place where you come to eat and spend. So it, in a way, reflects your aspirations. What is it that you want from life? You come with your family, you talk of things that are supposed to give you enjoyment. And often the eateries coexist with other shops, often in a mall. So the total tendency to consume, whether through the mouth or in the mind, is very visible. Oh Shiva, on that day when you looked at me, you enslaved me in grace, entered me and out of love melted my mind.